Becky, we're looking at the Fed today, and amid the uncertainty of fiscal policy and the persistence of inflation, respondents to our CNBC Fed survey, they dialed back somewhat their expectation for rate cuts, still thinking rates are coming this year, just less than expected. 65% expect 2 rate cuts this year. That's down from 78% in December. 61% expect 1 rate cut in 2026. That's down from 70%. 3.4%, that's your new average terminal rate, and that one keeps creeping up, suggesting the Fed is perhaps less restrictive at the current rates. And 23% now, that's the probability of a U.S. recession in the next 12 months. That is the lowest since February 2022. And after comments by President Trump demanding lower interest rates, just 36% now think President Trump will respect the Fed's independence, down from 56% in December. At the end of 2025, we're looking at a 3.84% funds rate. It's 3.96. That's down. That's up from 3.84. Now 3.6 at the end of 2026. So all just a little bit higher across the board, including the terminal rate there. Peter Bookvar with Bleakley Financial Group writes in, I just don't see the Fed having any confidence right now on how to proceed with rate cuts from here, especially as we await Trump's tariff and tax policy. So we ask people about it when it comes to their outlook on the net effect of all expected Trump policies. Here we go. 5% say extremely inflationary. 59% say somewhat inflationary. 23% say no effect on inflation. And 14% say them as somewhat deflationary. A lot of talk about deregulation and disinflation there, but they're also viewed as positive for economic growth. 14% say very positive, 46% say somewhat positive, 9% see no effect on growth, and 32%, or a third of our respondents, say they're somewhat negative. Guy Labas of Janney Montgomery Scott, he writes in and he says, reasonable economists can disagree just how inflationary tariffs or reductions in immigration might be, but they are inflationary. But several folks wrote in and said, hey, they expect Trump's deregulation efforts to be disinflationary and the driving force of the economy this year and next. That might make theoretical sense. It's just not been tested, and it's unclear how much deregulation can actually get done quickly, all of which is the reason everybody's saying, hey, the Fed's going to pause here, wait to see what happens when it comes to cutting rates, Becky.
Can we go back to the question you asked about whether he will respect the Fed's independence? What was it, 30-something% said no, they don't think that, 36% maybe? Does that mean
just
they think
36% say he will?
Oh, he will respect.
Down
okay,
from
so
56%.
Yeah. I guess my question is, thinking that he's not going to respect the Fed's independence, does that mean they think he's going to issue a whole lot of trash talk, or does that mean they think he'll actually do something, try and do something to, it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to actually do something, and I wonder if our survey got at that sort of question.
We did not, Becky, and I can hear what you're getting at because it struck me that things have changed, okay? The idea that President Trump will jawbone the Fed is now normative, right? That's where we're at right now. Yeah. And by the way, when you talk to people about this
and
from
publicly,
both administrations,
not just privately, publicly, that's exactly what I expect. Right. But I don't know that necessarily will impact the Fed's independence.
Well, if you read the comments in the that were written, and people say this is a year you could have some public battles between the Fed and the administration. Why? Because of all the reasons I just spoke about of why the fiscal uncertainty gives the Fed pause. Trump demanding lower interest rates, being a guy who wants lower interest rates, and I think this issue, Becky, I've been reading this morning about whether or not there is research and is there academic backing for this idea that deregulation is in fact disinflationary. The incoming Treasury Secretary said as much, that, hey, we may have inflation on the tariff side, but we're going to have disinflation from deregulation. That's a big part of it. Kevin Warsh wrote about it. And what I'm seeing in the research, Becky, and it's probably worth its own discussion, but it's very, very complicated. It depends upon what you're deregulating, what the level of deregulation is, and it's one that takes time. Ultimately, yes, it's good for the economy, good for productivity, But I'm not sure it's something the Fed can rely upon as being a disinflationary source to offset some of the other inflationary impulses coming from the president's policies.